Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the Real Talk Podcast with Asia and Mike. Yes. And today we'll be talking about exposure versus shelter. Um, and this is a personal issue for me because I had an issue at the beginning of the school year with my daughter. Um, One of the tools they use talked about Frederick Douglass. And in this presentation, they spoke of Frederick Douglass and some of his accolades and how he fought for civil rights. But this was a 1960s, maybe even the 1950s reel. It was an old news reel, and it really got under my skin because what it said was he was elected into the Negro Hall of Fame or into the Hall of Fame um, alongside Abraham Lincoln that freed the slaves, and it referred to us as Negroes. But this, I mean, and again, that is words they used then. But this was something accessible to my then 5-year old daughter, and it upset me. Old people, it upset me. Like why? And as we went through some of the Black History things on that was accessible to her, as far as Harriet Tubman, um, Susan B. Anthony, the words that they use for her in terms of her understanding this, you have to sit there and break down, okay, what is slavery? What was slavery? Why aren't we equal? And me then, her being going on, well, actually going on 6, explaining to her that some people won't like you because of your skin color, not because they don't like you. They won't like you because of your skin color. And she was shocked. And I took this to the principal. I even went to the people that approved this tool to be used as a part of their curriculum. Because the teachers, they see, okay, the parts of this, they and choose the parts of it that apply to their school. They don't go through every item in it. So they don't know. They just added, hey, this is clever. They can use it. Bing, and they click on it. But this is one of the tools that is accessible to her. I wasn't a fan of that. Not a fan. And here in, I say in the recent week, I've also seen several news articles about kids going back to school. And now teachers are more willing to have that conversation in schools, which I think is to a point okay. But this is something also that the parents are upset because they're having those conversations at school, but they also need to be having those conversations at home. And if they're not having conversations at home, why not have those conversations at school?
Um, I think there's an age appropriate way to explain everything. So I lean more towards exposure, but exposure with conversation.
I can agree with that. Um, and speaking of even the George Floyd situation, I mean, my daughter and I we went to Minneapolis this summer, so this past summer, and so we were there and seeing the people that were out in the streets that were, you know what I'm saying, not then rioting, but still in a state of shock as to what happened. and the people that you know saying come there just for to experience, and I hate to use you know saying that term, to experience that moment of history,
Mhm.
um, and to try and explain to her as to what happened and why, because she knows she has uncles, she has cousins, we have friends that are actual police officers.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying, or that work for that wear uniforms, or that you know saying they work for the Department of Corrections. So she knows, okay, these people are my family. So what's happening?
Mhm.
And it's kind of hard to explain to her when she's not old enough and hasn't had that type of experience,
Mhm.
and
I
she
sometimes
watches.
I think it's important to ask them questions though, because I had an experience where I was driving with all my kids in the car, and we ended up getting driving into a checkpoint, right? So I was fine because, of course, I'm going to try to stay as calm as possible with my kids in the car, and they were quiet, but I wasn't paying as much attention to them as much as I was paying attention to the officers around my car, right? So got through the traffic stop, pull off. I get to like the next corner, and I kind of like you kind of like tune back in, right? Like you click back in, and all I hear is crying, like crying behind me, like sniffling, crying. And I turn around and all my kids are crying. You know what I mean? And I like pull my car over and I'm like, what's wrong? And they were like, it was the police. Like the police, we were scared. And I was taken aback by it because I was like, my kids have never had a negative interaction with the police directly, right?
Right,
Like they've never had like cops pull up at the house or seen somebody get arrested. And that's never happened to them. They've never experienced that. But they still had a very innate fear of the police. And I'm like, that comes from somewhere. You know what I mean? Like that comes from seeing something, being exposed to something that I obviously was not aware of. And I was like,
okay,
oh, I have to have a conversation with them. You know what I mean? And then especially with my boys, like Josiah's 3, so I got a little bit of time. But with Elijah, I have conversations with him, especially when he's like outside playing and stuff, because he's 6, but he's built like a 9, 10 year old. You know what I mean? So I have to tell
right,
him all the time, like, be careful what you do. Don't go near the street. If the police pull up, just, don't say anything. Don't run. And it's like he's 6, but I know he doesn't look 6. And then he's a black boy. He is by nature perceived to be a threat by these people.
right,
So you have to have a certain amount of conversation with them, but it's just navigating like awareness versus fear.
right, right. And that's the same thing with having that conversation. You know, saying a lot of people not understanding the difference between um, racial bias and racism.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, you can be racially biased and not be a racist.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you're saying prejudice doesn't necessarily mean you're talking about race. I mean, I don't like, you know what I'm saying, beats. And you know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, I'm prejudiced, you know what I'm saying? I'm prejudiced against beats. You know what I'm saying? That prejudice that but the actual definition, you see, for racism, what racism is a system of oppression that results from a combination of prejudice and power.
Mm-hmm.
So when you exert that power over someone because they're different, that makes you racist or that person racist. You know, and there was a teacher, I was reading an article here, And a teacher, she had a project that still some parents had an issue with,
Mhm.
that in her for her kindergarten class, and she asked them questions about, you know, their hair color, their skin color, the texture of their hair. I'm saying about their differences, and some of the parents still didn't like that project because they felt that the teacher should have been trying to find more of the things that made them more alike than things that made them different. I mean, you're not going to be able to satisfy the masses no matter what you do. Because again, if you don't have the conversation at home and they have the conversation in school, I mean, and granted, this is, I'm saying off kilter, but I was still in Washington State, and it's talking about exposure. Um, it happened. This might have been 2000. I want to say 2011, 2010. There was a group of about, I want to say maybe 10, 12-year olds in a middle school that got pregnant. So the principal and the nurse, they started giving out condoms in this school
Mhm.
because because you have this many 12-year olds pregnant in this school. The parents had an issue with that. Okay, if you're not talking about sex at home, then we have to do something. You know what I'm saying? We feel obligated to do something about this.
Mhm.
So where are we having these conversations? When do you start having these conversations? Somebody needs to have this conversation. And now for for what we've been through and just in the last year, the conversation needs to be had a lot sooner.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of what that teacher did, and I say that because I don't necessarily believe in the idea of like, well, I don't see color. No, see my color, respect my color, understand, try to understand my color, respect my culture. You know what I mean? Know that I am different from you, but there's nothing wrong with me being different from you.
Right,
That's the thing. You know what I mean? It's not that we're not supposed to be different. It's that we're supposed to see the value in our differences. Like I hate when people use that. I don't see color. No, see me. You
right,
know what I mean? Like embrace all of this chocolate goodness. Because I'm not trying to be something else. I don't want you to whitewash me, so to speak. You know what I mean?
right,
Like what I want is to be respected regardless of my color. Period. You know what I mean? And to be treated fairly regardless of my color, to have the same chances as
right.
everyone else, regardless of my color. I'm not asking you to dismiss my color. So I do think it's important for children at a young age to understand that no, not the same way we teach, we have conversation. Boys are different than girls. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not less than, just different. To me, it's
Absolutely.
a difference in that conversation when you talk about race because to me it's learning. Like I think the blessing that I had, like when I started school in across seas in England, so I experienced racism and on that level, being the only black kid, and we've talked about it before. But when I came, most of my schooling is in New York, and for me it wasn't an uncommon thing that everybody around me was different. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Okay.
I very seldom found myself in a school or a classroom where like it was all black kids and one other. You know what I'm saying? Like it was the Asians, the Hispanics, the blacks, the white. It didn't matter. You know what I mean? And the interesting thing I always say about New York is you didn't look at race, you looked at ethnicity. Not that it was a
Right.
problem, but you understood, you learned more about culture. You know what I mean? Because you understood that yes, we are all black, but we are not a monolith. So this person over here is the same color as me, but their parents, they're Dominican. They're not even black. I mean, they're black, but
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
This
I'm
person
about to
over,
say, did
you know what I mean? But this person over here that's the same color as me, they're Haitian. They don't identify as African American. Like, like you learned more about cultures. I always say that it even comes down to the way that I cook. Like it's nothing to me for me to make arroz con gandules. You know what I'm saying? The same way I'm gonna make
Okay, right.
chicken. It's just being in a melting pot environment is beneficial because you don't judge other people for being different. You embrace the differences and you want to learn more. And that is where I feel like that lesson from that teacher comes into play. You know what I mean? Like I tell my kids all the time, like, don't look in the mirror and think that's all you are. You know what I mean? Like you can't look at the color of your skin and think that that's all you are. Like, do you see these eyes? You think I'm all black?
Hey, look, my kids got all my girls, they're chanky. So,
I'm like,
hey, look,
there's a lot going on here. You know what I mean? And
right.
I was blessed enough to be able to like learn my background and my history from my mother's side of the family. So I know that we are a melting pot of things. And I tell my kids that, like, no, don't just like, yes, the world will identify you this way, but know that you are more than that and embrace all those
Absolutely.
parts. I don't see what the problem
Yeah.
is.
Hey, but again, that comes from a level of sheer ignorance.
Is that
And wanting to, you know what I'm saying, and wanting that superiority.
mm-hmm.
Because if if they want people to a degree, or those kids to remain ignorant so that they don't understand the difference, don't understand that the differences don't make a difference
They don't?
because they're in it, they're still learning the same thing, they're
Mm-hmm.
getting taught the same lessons, but then you still have those teachers that will even teach, because they're still out here, that will teach differently because of race. And that's ridiculous. We had a in one of the high school that I graduated from, the school counselor, she pushed for black students to go to more trade schools
Mm.
than she did college.
Mm.
Like that was her thing. Hey, take these general courses so you know what I'm saying you can get your GED, or get, you know what I'm saying, barely get your diploma and get by. That was her thing.
Yeah.
Um, I graduated, you know what I'm saying, college prep. I took all that, you know what I'm saying, high level, high tech math that I ended up not using. but, 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 but I got it, you
Mm.
know. Um, but that was, like I said, it's still a thing. And until people decide not to be ignorant, and not to act ignorant, and not to allow their children to be ignorant, we're still gonna be stuck.
To me, it's two things. Willful ignorance is what I cannot tolerate. When you have the ability to learn and know better, but you choose not to,
Absolutely.
that's a problem. The other thing is understanding that, like what you just talked about, like how black students are pushed more towards like technical, like go, you know what I mean, go over here to this trade school. Don't even think about college, or go and learn how to shoot a basketball or something along those lines. Um, I see that, but to me, that's systemic, right? That is systemic racism at its finest.
Right.
It is how ideas and preconceived notions and racial biases have bled into a system that was never created for us in the first place. You know what I mean? But definitely not built to bring us up or out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, which is crazy to me though, because I feel like as a people, like I was reading an article the other day and they were saying how if Biden does um, do like student aid relief, right? If he does the student financial aid forgive, I'm sorry, student loan forgiveness, how the biggest benefiters of that will be Black women, because something like 80 something percent of the debt belongs to Black women, because Black women are the most highly educated group of women in the country, right? Because hand over foot, they're more likely to go to college and pursue multiple degrees, and you know what I mean, try to come up in that way. And it was just like, I think it's funny that like a system that we know is not built for us still produces this us. You know what I mean? Still produces
Right.
these women who go out there and bust their ass and end up in $400,000 worth of student debt, but they get it done.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think it's just a testament to like um, who we are and how we rise above, regardless, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And that. Go
mm,
ahead. I'm sorry.
you know what I'm saying? But to me, it's just going back to what we were saying. It's reinforcing that with our children, understanding that there are conversations that have to be had because the world is not going to change tomorrow. As much as we would like it to, we would all like to have a kumbaya moment and act like nothing ever happened. But the reality is, Black people are hurt,
Yeah.
right? And we've been hurt for hundreds of years. Healing does not come overnight. And we've been consistently and unashamedly damaged even more over the
Right.
years. So it's unrealistic to think that a couple of changes and a couple of laws and a couple of marches are suddenly we're just gonna come out of it and be like, we're good now. No, we still have to undo years of damage.
Right.
So we have to have those conversations with our kids because that is the only way that we do make those changes because at the end of the day, what changes now won't affect us.
Absolutely. You might. I'm saying you might have a great grandchild. I'm saying a great a
It
great
might give
grand.
me a little extra stimulus money, maybe a little extra back on my taxes because I'm struggling or whatever. But
Okay. Okay. But hey, everybody everybody need a new TV.
you know, what I'm saying? Let me get him a little bit
Because
more money. Um,
that's what I'm saying. Because that's about all they're giving you. I'm saying enough for. I'm saying new TV.
I don't know. That's how the tax credit works out. That might actually be a good look for somebody like me. But
Okay.
I'll take that extra $960 a month. I'll take it. Bring it. But like I said, it the changes that need to happen systemically. And
Right.
that means that we have to create a new system from the ground up. And
Right.
who's going to do that? Our children and the generations after them. Because those are
Right.
our future leaders, those are our future teachers, those are our future
Right.
engineers, those are it's our future. So if we sit here and do
Right.
the things that the generations before us have done, you know what I mean?
Nothing. Nothing. Yeah.
Like I come from the be seen and not heard generation. I come from the it is what it is.
You
Just
do what I say.
do it, keep your head down, stay out of trouble, and maybe they won't see you and you won't get in trouble. You
Right. Yeah.
understand? So
You said
go ahead.
I was right there. I was right there. I was. I'm saying you actually you act like you that far behind me. No, I was right there.
I didn't say you didn't. I just said, let's talk about myself.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Let's talk about myself. I'm just saying, like that's the generation I come from. The the others. We don't do those. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
as
But
opposed to, and then
and that's what.
you have to be better than them.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. That I was taught, of course. And a lot of people think that having racial biases, I'm saying this, especially us, that is also creates reverse racism.
It's
You
not.
can be biased, it's not, but
It's not.
people think it's a thing.
People
Some
think a
people,
lot of
some
things.
people, some people think that it's a thing, and
Some people
it's
think
not.
it's different,
I mean,
and the
you can.
reality.
Some people are culturally. Some people are culturally biased.
Yeah.
because they won't, you know what I'm saying, like they won't marry outside their culture. You know what I'm saying? Is but until, like you said, we have to get educate our children as far as pushing them into the system and get them into the system early. System meaning, hey, and I spoke on this before too. There's a lot of things that go on within our local government that a lot of people don't understand that affect you
Mhm.
daily. Most people, us, really, yeah, really, because they're ignorant to the fact that, hey, the presidential election is every 4 years. You don't hear anything about nobody running until, hey, it's time to vote for the president.
Mhm.
They forgot about the Senate.
Every
They
2 years.
forgot
Yeah.
they forgot about all you saying the superintendents. They forgot about all them school boards.
Mhm.
Hey, for as much as I don't want to be involved with the PTA, you know what I'm saying? Because I just don't want to. I just don't want that in my life. It's not. That's not.
You know it's important.
A,
You know it's
yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not a hurdle. I want. You know what I'm saying
important.
jump, but you know what I'm saying being involved. You know what I'm saying with that type of within that system, it allows you to know what is happening within your school system.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, you know what I'm saying, they don't, I understand what goes on in the PTA. I want to bring your cookies. I don't want to be a part of your dance. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to meet every Tuesday. No, I'm not being in the carpool. That's not what I want. No, I'm not volunteering. So I get it. I know what they do, but at the same time, I'm also aware of the changes that are made within the system. So I know what policies are changing. I look at that stuff. So I
Mhm.
don't have to be a part of the So I don't have to be a part of the PTA to know what I'm saying to be in the loop.
Yeah. You're aware. You make
Um,
sure that you're
but
aware, that you know what's happening around you. And that's the thing. It's like I'm hoping, right, that people will look at this last election, right, and see the power of your voice. You know what I
right,
mean? Like the power of your vote, and also understanding that, like, no, it does not. It's not like being involved in a system is not about instant gratification. It's the long game.
right,
Because then it's 100% the long game. But you do things to get small wins to have bigger victories. So it's very important to be involved and to teach that to your children so that that is
absolutely.
the norm for them. You know what I mean? Like for them, it
Yeah.
should be like when they turn 18, it should be like, oh, I get to vote. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like,
But at the same time, you know what I'm saying a lot of people they're looking at as a whole. The people are looking at, okay, we got Biden in office, and what is he doing for me?
nothing.
Not a goddamn thing. That's what he's doing for your ass. Not a goddamn thing. You know why? Because the president looks out for the entire United States. That is his fucking job. You have other people that are elected to look out for you.
But it's also understanding
Yeah,
who you have in office is important because
oh, I'm not, though. Don't, oh, don't, I'm not saying, oh,
they get to decide who gets to decide in other areas of your life. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Like you know what I mean? Housing, you know,
right,
all those different things. Like putting people who know what the hell they're doing in those positions so that you can
right.
benefit from those things. You know what I mean? Like understanding, you know, how what is happening in the world today affects people. Like I promise you, if I never had an understanding before of the situations that people find them have found themselves in since this pandemic, it's been my job. You know what I'm saying? Like I spend all day listening to people calling because they didn't get their stimulus payments, and everybody has a reason why they need it. You know what I
Right.
mean? And it's like I had a lady call in today, and I had, we have to ask certain questions, and it was just like, well, did you file taxes last year? And she's like, I think I did. And people used to say that. I was like, what you mean you think you did? Like, how do you not know? You know what I mean? But over time, I realized, no, people been through a lot in the last year and some change. And she
Right.
was like, I think I did. I said, well, do you remember if you put in a change of address? She was like, honestly, I've lived in 7 different places in the last year and twice in my car. You know what
You
I
see,
mean?
and
And it
that's a
just,
struggle.
yeah, like that struggle. You know what I'm saying? So you understand that, like, okay, this push that's happening right now with them trying to pass this third round of stimulus checks, but not even just the stimulus checks, right? Because that's a temporary, that's a band-aid. But the changes to the the earned income credits,
Yeah.
how that can be beneficial. Because yeah, every that lump sum once a year is great, but like me tell you, if somebody gives me $960 a month for 8 months, that's 8 months. I only got to pay like $75 on my rent.
Hey, look.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, I'm not looking at that like what I get to turn up for eight. No, it's like I get to breathe for eight
Yeah,
months.
but
You know what I'm saying?
see, but see, that's you being responsible.
But even
That
still,
that
people are allowed to do what they do. It's just, it's like somebody gonna fuck it up. Somebody gonna fuck it up. Somebody gonna fuck it up.
everybody. It, okay,
You don't punish the
but
majority for the few. You know what I'm saying?
you're
Like,
right. I mean, you're right.
in general, when they did studies and stuff, most people spent that money trying to put food in the house and catch up on bills. Like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't even like, oh, I got 1,200. I'm finna go get me some crab legs and hit the strip club. Everything was closed. You couldn't go nowhere, no way. You know what
Hey,
I'm saying?
look, hey, you're right. You know what I'm saying? You're absolutely right. But even with that being said, that was for us. You know what I'm saying? For us that were on the bottom, struggling, that needed that. But you still had a lot of that money that went to major corporations. You know what I'm saying? That fucked that money off.
Yeah. Well, that was who that was.
Well, that's because. Yeah, well,
You know who that was. But it's also
uh,
like, you know, like I said, bringing it back full circle. It's just it's having those conversations with your children early. I think is vital. I think as early as they can understand, they need to know some version of what is happening around them. You can't like you live in a bubble. You experience culture shock. You're bound to fuck up. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I mean, I was in the military with people that, matter of fact, one of the females when I was in the Navy, she was from South Dakota, had never, never seen a black person until she joined the military.
Mm.
And that, you know what I'm saying, that, even being in South Dakota, like, I understand it's way out west, you know what I'm saying, Montana, Colorado, you know what I'm saying, North Dakota, everything right there, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, black people go see Mount Rushmore. That's in South Dakota. I mean, I drove by it twice, you know?
I'm just saying, like,
Hey, you
I
know
mean,
what I'm saying? I'm like, hey, them
it
heads are
happens like
big.
that. You can be very insulated, you know what I mean, and just
Yeah,
stay in your network, your community, your town, whatever the case may be, and it may not be that populated, but it's like when you have a chance to see the world, see the world. When you have a chance to embrace and learn new things, do that shit. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
then for those of us who, as adults, have been in the world, we have a responsibility when we procreate. You know what I mean? To not put our children in that same situation. You know what I mean? Like I
right.
feel like the moment for me was I had my oldest daughter was a baby. Like she must have been maybe 6, 7 months old. And we were at the Georgia Aquarium. We was walking her around the aquarium and we stopped in front of the beluga whale tank. And this white couple walks up and she's in her stroller and the whales are like right there by the she could care less about the whales. It's the white people for her. You know what I'm saying? Like she's just mouth wide open, right? The guy was like, I know I'm the same color as the beluga whales. And me and her dad were like, damn, shit, man, I know white people. Like it hit us. You know what I mean? Because
Oh,
I was like, well, she
right,
went to the doctor, but no, all the nurses and stuff in there are black too. Like the doctor's white, but she's not paying. She's kind of in and out. You know what I mean? But I was like, she has
right.
really been around white people for how it's been this. So I was just like, oh
Right.
mom, gotta expose her. You know what I mean? To that was my first indicator. She about to be 13. So I've been sticking with that with my other kids. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
understanding that the world is bigger. Like my mom was a struggling single mom, 5 kids. But the one thing that she kept reinforcing for us was that the world was bigger than the box we lived in. So that's why she would hustle and I would travel and go back and forth to Jamaica and go see other family all around the country, California. It didn't matter. I had to go.
Right.
She wanted me to know that the world was bigger than the box that I lived in, that people that were different, places were different, culture was different. She always has encouraged travel. Like that was very important to her because she grew up having that understanding. So,
Right.
especially being an immigrant to this country, you know what I mean? So, I've just made it a
Oh,
point of mine.
she didn't get caught up in the sweet.
Now,
Okay. All right.
now she got her papers. Um,
Okay. My bad. You know what I'm saying?
cool,
That you know
cool,
what I'm saying?
whatever. But
You're a dreamer. Then.
no, I'm not a dreamer.
Okay. 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 All right. You German.
Shut up.
Okay. My bad. My bad. Go
I
ahead.
was
Go ahead.
born here, okay?
Okay. Hey, that
But
don't look. Hey, they were too.
we good.
Doctor. Okay. All right. Bet.
And
Okay.
she, my grandmother made sure she had papers before she got married, okay? This was back in
Okay.
like late 60s, early 70s. She was all right back then, okay?
Oh, okay.
Walk across the border back then. Go ahead, go ahead. You got a job? Go.
Footbridge.
So,
Footbridge. Okay.
so, but no, but she just was always like, the world is bigger. And I do the same with my children. Like, the world is bigger than what you know. You know what I mean? Expose yourself to things, but always be aware that the way you see the world is not always how the world sees you.
Absolutely. And I think that you good.
All right.
It's not like